I'm Diane Starin, Living Skills Instructor, and today's seminar is kind of a personal travel log by request, but at the same time, it will be a good information sharing about doing a trip as a blind person independently by yourself. So it will be a personal travel log along with ideas and information sharing. And what I'd like to do as an icebreaker is ask each of you, what is your most memorable trip you've ever taken? And what is your dream trip that you would like to take? Who would like to start? Norman.
Zoom meeting.
Some of you might not know, but there was a little alert that went out that the meeting is being recorded, so you have to hit got it in order to continue.
Good point.
Got it. Zoom meeting.
There you go.
Can you hear us, Norman?
Thank you. Let's see. Rocio. I think it will.
So while Norman's figuring out unmute, let's see. How about Lily?
Hi.
Hello.
Yes, I'm not sure. Maybe the most amazing one was the whale watch.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Where did you get to do that?
Where?
Mm-hmm.
It was in. Oh my gosh! It was just like near Monterey Bay, somewhere there. So yeah, it was like 4 hours away from the shore. So it was scary.
Nice. And what would be your dream trip?
Dream trip. I don't know, somewhere high in the mountains. That would be yeah, like really high.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Very good. Norman, are you there? All right, who else would like to go next?
Diane, can you repeat? I think that a few people come in right after you said that.
Oh, okay. So our icebreaker is what has been your most memorable trip you've ever taken, and what would be your dream trip in the future? Okay.
Okay, Diane, it's Sam. I can go.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay, so most memorable trip was I was an exchange student in Brazil for a year after high school. Ooh. And Brazil's a big country, but the most memorable part, I would think, was the visit to the Amazon rainforest.
Oh, incredible.
And took a boat up the river, and yeah. In my dream trip, well, my current bucket list includes lots of things, but probably the highest on the list right now is hiking El Camino de Santiago in the southern part of France, going from France down to the southern tip of Spain. Someday, with plenty of leisure time, a young guide dog, and a backpack, I'm doing it.
I love all these nature ideas. I love that. All right. Who's next?
Hi, this is Kyan.
Hi.
My most memorable trip would have been a fishing trip I did with my brother, dad, and uncle in Mexico a long time ago. And I think one I'd like to do is the same thing with my kids and my brother's kids.
What did you catch? What was your big catch?
Yellowtail tuna.
Very nice.
It was only like 20 pounds, but it was big.
That must have been fun to haul in.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
How you doing, Norman? Are you there? Norman's having trouble today. All right, who's next?
I'll go, Diane. This is Nick
Okay.
Westerman. I'm an AT teacher with Society for the Blind. And let's see, I like many trips I've taken to Mexico. Probably one of my best was when I went to Acapulco by myself when I was 21 years old. So I didn't have anybody going with me. I just kind of went by myself and felt my way around town, made friends with the cab drivers and had a good time.
I've been there.
What's that?
I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been to Acapulco back in 74.
Acapulco is beautiful.
Yes.
And then I think the trip that I'd like, there's lots of trips I'd like to take, but I think right now the top of my list is probably to go to the Northeast coast, like New York, Vermont, Maine, Massachusetts, that area. Get there.
Very good. All right.
All right. Norman's coming back in.
Okay.
All right. Well, my name is Paul Gray. I'm the manager of our core department. I would say my favorite trip was Acapulco myself.
Oh my gosh.
We kind of just had nothing to do. I was living in San Diego at the time, and it was a spur of the moment thing. So we got on the plane and flew down there and backpacked our way back up 4 weeks until we got back into San Diego. But during the trip, we stopped in Mexico City, and we got, about an hour outside of Mexico City, there's these old Aztec pyramids. There's 3 pyramids within a mile of each other, and they line up in this perfect way when the sun rises. But we got to climb one of the pyramids. They had steps in, and we got to climb all the way top of the very top of a pyramid. And so that was pretty cool. We got some crazy pictures. But that was real fun. My fantasy trip, I just want to go. I want to live everywhere in Europe and travel around the Mediterranean and Spain and London. I just want to, live anywhere in Europe and just go country to country because they're so close together. That's kind of my big deal. Yeah. I want to do a good 3-month trip somewhere.
There you go.
I got to do that with I think it was a Mayan temple in Chichen Itza outside of Cancun. Got to go up to the top of it.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's creepy. It's eerie for sure. And,
yeah,
but a good time.
That European thing is really cool. I did a 42-day back in '89. All over. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
All right, I guess I'll go.
Norman? Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Norman. Are you there? I guess I'll go then. So this is Jill Gilbo on the Braille instructor. My most memorable trip would probably be from my childhood, but the one that sticks out the most nowadays is when I went to Hawaii a couple years ago. And it was kind of the first trip that I had been on without anybody sighted. It was amazing. Did a bunch of really neat hikes, kayaked, really good. My dream trip is going to be either, because we're going to do it next year, a friend of mine, either Alaska to go dog sledding and go and stand in the middle of a glacier.
Oh, Alaska's incredible.
Or, yeah, I'm not really sure yet, but probably Alaska.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Costa Rica would be my second. That's another possible one.
All right. Who would like to go next?
People.
Hello.
Hi, this is Julie.
Hi.
My most memorable trip was last September. I went with a group of people on motorcycles, and we went to 8 states. Our final destination was South Dakota, and just traveling through the states and seeing this wonderful country.
Nicholas Westerman.
Just how beautiful everything is. We saw Mount Rushmore, the Grand Tetons, just the beautiful, just how beautiful everything is. It's just amazing. And this coming up summer, our plan is to go on another multi-state trip on the motorcycles. And we're going towards the Grand Canyon. And I've never been to the Grand Canyon, so I'm really excited about getting there. And then we're also going to head towards Arizona, go to Tombstone. And I love the movie Tombstone, so I'm excited to go to the OK Corral. So that's one of the things on my bucket list. And so last summer when we went to South Dakota, I was determined to stay on the motorcycle and not get in the car. And I rode 3,200 miles. So I was very proud of myself that I made the whole trip. And
you must have gone to Sturgis.
No, well,
no?
we went through Sturgis, but we didn't go there for Sturgis.
I see.
Okay. That was not, something that was, we actually drove through there in the dark and went, oh, hey, there's Sturgis. But that wasn't something that was on our list.
Very cool. Very cool.
But it was just, the countryside is just beautiful.
Yes, it is beautiful up there.
Yeah. So
Diane, Andy said he knocked down his mic. He said his most memorable trip was Yosemite. He wants to go to, he wants to go to Greece or Alaska. That was in the text.
Very good. Very good.
Hi, this is Tom. My most memorable trip, or trips plural, would be fishing on the Connecticut River in Alaska. And my dream trip, or top of the list right now, is to go dive warm water with my son.
Wonderful. Excellent. Let's see, who else hasn't gone yet?
Hi, this is Rubina. And most memorable trip, if I had to pick one, it would be when I was younger. I went on a cruise, and we went to St. Thomas in Puerto Rico. I would probably love to go to Hawaii. I haven't been there yet.
Very good. Lots of great choices there.
This is Joseph.
Hello.
Hello. The most memorable trip I've gone on was Devil's Bridge in Sedona. It's about 4 miles, natural sandstone, 3-story bridge, really breathtaking views. And somewhere I would like to go would be Vietnam or different parts of Southeast Asia, where my family is from.
I don't know if everyone's at seminar has met you yet. Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Absolutely. I'm Joseph. I am currently the orientation mobility instructor at Society for the Blind.
We're so happy to have a new mobility instructor on board, everybody. So yeah, welcome.
Thank you, Diane.
This is Joy.
Hi.
I'd say that I've been on a lot of trips with my husband. We're big cruisers. We've been all over the Caribbean. We've been all over Mexico. But out of all those trips, I think the most memorable of the cruises was the one we took our boys on, because we had never taken any of the kids on cruises. So we took our 2 boys with us, and we ended up going to Belize, Roatan Island, a few other places. But when we took them to Belize, we got to see some really cool Mayan ruins. And then when we went to Roatan, we walked through the jungle to this capuchin monkey sanctuary. And they told us, oh, well, be careful with the monkeys. They'll come down and grab your hat or your sunglasses. Well, this monkey comes down, and the guy says, oh, let me get a picture. And he puts him up on my shoulder. And my husband says, okay, we're going to get a picture. Well, this monkey wraps his tail around my neck, swings his body around the front of my body, and puts his fingers in my mouth.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, this monkey is trying to choke me with his fingers and his tail. And so that was a really fun trip. Dream trip wise, though, my husband and I, we really want to go to the Mediterranean. That's
So
one
to where?
So that's what we want to do.
I didn't hear where you said. It kind of dropped off.
Oh, I said dream trip for us would probably be a cruise over to the Mediterranean.
Ah, very nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Norman, are you there? He's having trouble today. All right.
I'm right here. I'm not last but not least.
All right.
It has been quite a challenge to speak and talk about the most memorable trip. But everything is in different ways, the way you want to see it. So for instance, single, not single. So I don't know, for me, it's, let me just say out loud, which 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, Paris. Paris, London, Europe. Amazing. Worth it. It's so romantic. It's all love. And what other place? Or what was it that I would like to?
Your dream trip.
Oh, I love camping. I am like the others. I do love camping.
I love it. We have all these nature folks today. This is great.
I was in Northern California. Yes, I want a cabin. I want a cabin in front of a lake.
There you go.
Something simple.
All right.
Hopefully. Yes.
Is that everybody? How we doing, Paul?
I think good. I'm trying. Nick went. Melody's out there hiding.
Ah.
Hi.
Hello.
This is Melody. Let's see. My most memorable trip was Kona, Hawaii. I loved Hawaii. I always want to go back. My dream trip is Thousand Islands in Ontario, Canada, or Niagara Falls on the Canadian side. Yeah.
Ah, beautiful. I can recommend a Great Lakes walking, a book about a lady who walked 1,000 miles around the Great Lakes. She has a series of 2 books. And if you like that area, I highly recommend those books. They're wonderful.
Yeah, I love the water and the oceans. Yeah.
Okay. All right. If that is everyone, you know, I'm kind of like Rocio. It's very hard to say what my most memorable trip is, but I guess I have to. I've been many, many, many places, and I guess I have to say, though, it's Mackinac Island in Lake Superior. Because it is carless, everything is horse-drawn. It's like a step back in time. And it is just the most incredible place. I think it's our country's best kept secret. So that probably is my most memorable. As far as a dream trip, there are a lot of them, but I would like to experience the Grand Canyon. So. Having said that, I recently returned from a trip to nothing hugely exciting, but I just returned from Nebraska, and a client asked me, as we were discussing the logistics of my trip, she said, "Oh, I wish you would do a seminar." And I said, "Okay, I can do that." So here we are. And so the preparation for a trip as a blind person is only different in that you're going to do the same preparations as a sighted person, but obviously some of the technologies you're going to use are going to be different. And maybe some of the obstacles you're going to encounter may be different. So in my preparation, I had to fly an airline that I normally don't fly. I love Southwest, but I couldn't do it this time because I had to fly into a smaller airport due to a lot of things. And so I had to fly United. And so I tried what I thought would be the easiest thing first by calling them. And the day I tried to call them, there was a problem with their phones and it wasn't happening. So I took up my iPhone and downloaded their app. And once I got the app set up, I was amazed at how accessible the app really was, because you never know when you start out. And I have to say, making the reservation was not simple. And I had, and I'll tell you, I had, after many attempts and glitches, I had some sighted help. And even then, I don't know if the server was crazy that day, but it was not easy. However, having said that, once I got it set up and reserved, I was so impressed with their app. And so I can really encourage you folks who are learning the iPhone and learning voiceover. It is so worth it when an app for a situation like this or some other is super accessible and actually works well. Because once I had my reservation, the app was incredible for alerts to notify of gate changes. You had instant access to that. They had to add to wallet, so you could put your boarding passes in the wallet on the phone and quickly and easily access them. And every time there was a gate change, I could just tap on more and one other icon to update the gate in my wallet on my boarding pass. So the real-time access, had I not had the app, I'm not sure I would have gotten that information. And I have had situations in the past where I didn't get that information because I didn't have an app before iPhones and stuff, and nearly missed flights because of gate changes I wasn't aware of. So it was most impressive, and I was pleased. There was lots of things I could do in the app. I could access my card information ahead of time for onboard purchases if I wanted to do that. If I hadn't done that, I couldn't do an onboard purchase because they were all touchless. They were handing out wipes as we boarded so that we could clean our seating area and everything that everybody touches, even though they had. Going, I had a 12-hour trip because of 2 3-hour plus delays, or not delays, but layovers. I flew out of Sacramento to San Francisco, and out of San Francisco to Denver, and out of Denver to Sioux City, Iowa. So it was a very long trip. So I planned for that. I packed, I took books with me. I took my Victor. So I had reading material. I packed snacks, even though I could buy food in the airport. I wasn't really keen on that. And the airports that I flew through are enormous. And Denver is so enormous. I asked the SkyCap that I used how long it took them to learn the airport. And they said they still had not. They use a map. But let me back up a little bit. So getting to the airport, also I did some ahead of time planning. I pre-scheduled my car to make sure I was at the airport when I needed to be. And depending on the airport, depending on how familiar you are with the airport, if you travel a lot and you use an airline a lot and you're pretty familiar, you may not need a SkyCap for some of your trip. You may not need it for all your trip, or you may need it for all of your trip. And that depends on a few things, right? It depends on your skill level. Are you new at blindness and you're still learning? Or is this an unfamiliar airport? It's very big and you don't have a lot of time. Those things all matter how you make those decisions about asking for a sky cap for assistance to get you where you need to go. I have in the past flown Southwest a lot, and I'm so used to the Southwest terminal, at least in Sacramento, I don't need a sky cap because I'm so familiar. And so, you know, things like when you're walking toward the escalator, there are sounds that cue you to where that escalator is, such as the ribbed metal plate that's right before the escalator, and you can hear people's suitcases rolling over it. Oh, there's the escalator. And when, you know, when you get up top and you need to get in line for security, you can hear where that's happening. And as you get closer, then you can ask someone about where the end of the line is and get behind them. I find that if I'm on carpet and I'm in line, it's hard to hear when someone moves up. And if they're not pulling a suitcase that I can just kind of touch with my cane, I'll just ask them to, I'll just say something like, you know, would you tell me when you move up? It's really noisy in here and I don't necessarily hear when you move. Things like that. Asking directions, walking to your gate, especially if you have a lot of time. I personally don't like to sit for a long time, so I'd rather spend my time walking. So just some of those little ideas. When it's time to board, do you need assistance to board? If you do, nothing wrong with that. If you don't, you can get in line like everybody else and board. It's kind of depending on where you are in your journey. A question I like to ask when I'm talking to folks about that, though, you know, there's consequences and ramifications to everything that we do. And as blind people, we're teaching the public about blindness, even whether we want to or not. We're always educating. So how we act affects what people think of what it's like to be blind. And so doing it in the best way possible, not only for yourself, but for everyone. And so what might I mean by that? In my case, going to a Southwest terminal, let's say I'm standing in line and I've gone up there because I'm so familiar and I've gotten in line and I'm waiting in line, and one of the people working the checkpoint comes over and says, "Oh, ma'am, come with me. I can take you right on through." Question is, should I go? And my thought pattern is no, I shouldn't. There's nothing wrong if my legs are back. If there were, that'd be a different thing, and I probably wouldn't be standing in line in the first place. But I'm not so special that I can't stand in line. And you say, well, why would that matter? I'd rather just get to my gate and make it easy and all that. What if the next day, somebody who was in that line was interviewing folks for a job opening, and a blind person walked in? They might think they're going to need lots of special help and want to, you know, have special treatment because of what they saw the day before. And it might even be unconscious that they think it. So everything we do does affect everyone else. And so I think about those things. So when I got to the Denver airport, the app, the wonderful app that I was so happy with, as our plane was touching down, said, "Welcome to Denver. You're arriving at gate such and such, and your next gate is such and such, and please plan your trip because it is a 25-minute walk." Oh my God. So that gives you an idea how big the airport is. Well, I knew that ahead of time because of the good information in the app. So I did have a SkyCap meet me, because even though I had a lot of time there, I preferred to get to the gate. And then if I wanted to go and, you know, find something to eat or do something else, I could do that without worrying about plane and times and all of that. And so I did. I used a SkyCap to get there. And of course, they brought the wheelchair, and I said, "No, thank you, I'll walk." And so they said, fine. Matter of fact, I was happy to walk at that point. I didn't want to sit. I wanted to walk. And So I said, I'll put my carry-on in your chair though, if you have to keep it. So, so he did. And it did truly take 25 minutes and we were not walking slowly. It was amazing. Because I was transferring from a really large plane to a more commuter-sized jet. So anyway, and I was pleased. The flight staff did not treat me strangely. They asked if I'd flown before. I said yes. And they gave me a bit of information that the sighted folks would have if they were looking around for exits and such, and kind of left it at that. The only kind of condescending talk I ever got was from a really young flight crew. That probably had more to do with their youngness and my olderness than anything else. But anyway, so somehow this 12-hour trip going there went very successfully. There were no hitches. And I got there around midnight. So, you know, as I was packing for this trip, I don't know how many of you, when you travel, because a lot of you have had quite a lot of travel. I am a person who's really organized, and I try to pack in an organized fashion. And I even make a packing list so that I don't forget something, and I check it as I pack. So I use Braille. So I just have a normal sheet of Braille paper and I make my packing list. And as I pack things, I put an X next to that item. I slide it in the lid of my suitcase so that when I come home, I use that list again to make sure I'm not leaving anything behind. Canes, if you're a cane user, and I suppose even if you're a guide dog user, you're still going to think about this, because I have 3 different kinds of canes. I have a straight cane that I use the majority of the time. I have a folding cane, and I have a telescopic cane. I took all 3 with me. I used my straight cane. I took my folding cane and my telescopic cane with me. So should I break a cane, I've got one. So one cane was in one of my extra canes was in my carry-on. The other one was in my big suitcase that was checked under the plane. You know, in my home life, my telescopic cane is like my spare tire. I carry it with me all the time. So if I break my straight cane, I've got it, because it collapses down the smallest. And having said that, guys, I don't recommend a telescopic cane for beginners, because if it does collapse or not hold its friction hold, and you don't realize it, you may miss a step or a curb if you're not used to that. But having said that, it's a great spare. And I use my folding cane when I go horseback riding, because should I need to get off and walk and lead my horse, it is a much more sturdy cane and is not going to collapse like the telescopic would. So there's uses for all 3, and they all have their place. So when I got to my destination, so now I have to quickly get used to navigating a new environment. And this was not a pleasure trip, I can say that. So there was a lot of stress, and I had to quickly adapt to an assisted living facility that my mom was in. And I wanted to impact the folks I was staying with the least. And so the first time I was dropped off, the person that dropped me off walked me to my mom's apartment, and that was it. After that, I chose to be on my own. And it turned out to be pretty good, because the staff there, I think, quickly learned a lot. They asked me if I needed help a couple times, and when they observed that I didn't, they left me be after that. They were just friendly and said good morning like they did to everybody else. So that was very nice. And so, you know, it was a good travel. It was a good travel experience. Had I not had the app on my iPhone for United, it would have been a very difficult experience. So I can't recommend highly enough getting really happy with your technology. That's not to say that every app will always make you that happy. Some will make you that mad on the other extreme, but when they work, it is so valuable. So at this point, what I'd really like to do is hear from you and let you ask me some questions about things I may have left out that you might wonder about traveling as a blind person by yourself on any kind of trip. It doesn't have to be this particular one, but I'd like to open it up for that. Anybody?
I have a question. It's Rocio. I'm assuming, well, you traveled internationally. And I wonder if you have ever, what was your experience traveling alone internationally through customs?
I haven't done it alone, but it's very similar to very similar to going through security, really. Not a lot of difference, because to me, it's more about how the people react to you than anything. And that brings up a kind of a funny thing. One of the times when I got back from Europe, one of the things that worried me about customs was I had bought some saffron, and I thought, as I was getting to customs, maybe that wasn't a good idea. I hope they're not going to think it's something else. But you know, I didn't have any unusual problem with that.
No, yeah, because at that point you can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I asked for a reason, but thank you.
It is interesting, you know, we talked about travel in different countries. A lot of you have, and I have as well. And one of the things I noticed when I did a 42-day Europe trip, you know, you really get exposed to the differences in the perceptions that different cultures have of blindness and how much it matters, doesn't matter. Kind of a funny experience I had in Paris. I was trying to go see the Eiffel Tower, and I got in line for tickets, and I got up and went, "Oh no, you should go over there. You don't have to pay." And I'm like, "No, it's okay." And it's like, you know, when you're in another country, you can't change things in 5 minutes. So you just try to go along, get along. So I go to the other line. "Oh no, you need to go back over there." And I think they sent me back and forth. I don't know how many times. I'm like, "Oh my God, I just want to go up." But and in the Louvre, a security guard ran over screaming that I wasn't to get on the escalator. And so when we left, I asked the person I was with to tell me when the security guard wasn't looking, and I got on the escalator, and I was already halfway up when he saw me and had his fit. Any other thoughts or questions? And it can be about travel in general with vision loss, or, you know, something I didn't touch on that some of you have asked me about before is if you use a straight cane on the airplane, what do you do with it? And of course, many times they want to take it away from you, and I never allow that. I choose to sit on the aisle seats. I like that because when the flight attendant comes around asking things, I can't hear when I'm by the window, and I can't tell when they're talking to me. So I like to sit on the aisle. But when I do, if I sit down first, I just reach over and put my cane between the seat by the window and the arm of it and the wall, and it lays down flat. And if someone is already there, I will hand it to them and ask them to put it there, and they do. So that's what I do with my straight cane. I never allow it to be taken anywhere else on the plane.
So Diane, I got a comment on that. When I travel, and a lot of times I'm going to visit people I know when I'm going out to travel. So one of the things that I got in the habit of is, well, and this also comes because I don't travel, but every 6 months or so, I will go ahead and order a free NFB white cane and have it delivered to the place I'm going to, so that I have a backup cane there. And then I also have the straight cane, and I'll travel with my collapsible cane.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Absolutely. And you know, if I think the next best thing, if you didn't want to take a straight cane on the plane, although I would want my straight cane when I got there, so I can't imagine I would ever do it. But the next best thing would be a folding cane, because you can put it in the seat pocket in front of you, but that doesn't help when you get there, and would be prefer to be using a straight cane. So that's a good idea, Nick.
Diane? We have a text message coming in from Norman.
Okay.
He's asking, how did you handle putting in your luggage on the above your seats? And then also, how do you handle picking up luggage that's not a carry-on?
Oh, great question.
Getting in line, and then, yeah.
Getting in line. Okay. Well, let me address the line thing again. So sometimes I'll do curbside check-in when I get to the airport, or when I get to security, any of those line places. I will walk up to the line. Well, let me see. If I'm getting out of an Uber car at the airport and I'm going to do curbside, if I've said to the driver, is there curbside check-in? If the answer is yes, I will get out and I will ask someone in the line, you know, are you at the end? No, it's way back there, whatever. So I'll go find the end. And then usually, if you're outside, you can hear when the suitcase in front of you moves forward, so you can move up. Or if it's behind the person, you can kind of put your cane against it and you can feel when it moves up. If you're in line at security and you can't hear that on the carpet, you could ask the person to just let you know when they move up, and just let them know, you know, it's noisy and we're on carpet and I can't necessarily hear when you move up. I've done that before. I'm not a big fan of putting my cane against someone's shoe. I will put it against their suitcase, but not their shoe. Some people will do the shoe thing. I would rather just ask them to tell me when they move up if they don't have a suitcase that they're pulling. As far as putting stuff in the overhead, you know, it's pretty much a touch thing. You reach up, usually the overhead bins are already open, and you feel, is there something there or not? And then if it's empty, of course, you just lift your suitcase up like everybody else and put it in. If there's something there, usually the flight attendants are keeping an eye on things, and they'll say, oh, you know, there's an empty spot up here, and they'll usually come and take it or whatever, things like that. But I love the one about how do I get my luggage off the carousel in the airport, or know where the carousel is. My beautiful United app told me which carousel to go to, which I just thought was wonderful. So if I'm in an unfamiliar airport and I'm walking with a sky cap to the luggage area, that's how I would get there. If it's an airport I am familiar with and maybe I didn't get a sky cap, you know, the flow of the people getting off the plane is really obvious, and you can kind of go with the flow. And you can always ask directions as you go in case you're unsure. But once I get to the luggage claim area, I would just ask someone, you know, where is carousel A2 or whatever it is I'm looking for, and go there. And if you can stand up next to the carousel, well, there's two things. I do use a luggage finder, but this trip, when I used my luggage finder, they turned it off. So it didn't do me any good that way. Luggage Finder is simply a little device you can put on the handle, and you have the other piece, and you push the button and it beeps when it gets in range. And so you can hear your luggage coming, but they turned it off. And this is the first time I'd ever used one anyway, so it didn't really matter because I already had another technique. So I stand, and when I hear the suitcase is starting to come, I've kind of got my shins against the edge of the carousel thing. And so when I hear the suitcases start to come, all I have to do is bend my knees a little bit and kind of lower my hand within, say, a foot or a foot and a half of the surface. And I keep my hand flat so it won't catch my fingers. And as the suitcases slide under my hand, I can recognize my own suitcase because I know what it feels like. And even if I feel one that I think is mine and I pull it off and it's not mine, I can put it back on. So that's how I collect my own suitcase. And even if the sky cap is there, I'm more familiar with what my suitcase feels like than they are what it looks like. So I will still do it even if the sky cap stays with me. And they're usually amazed that I can do that and pick out my own suitcase. So that's what I do.
He just texted and show off. No, I'm just kidding. That was from me. Luggage Finder. I've never had the Luggage Finder. Do you just get that at the front?
The Luggage Finders, you can buy them. I don't remember where I got it. And you know, I've also used it when I've gone camping on a door handle of a cabin or in the tents or whatever. So if you're out and you want to get back and there's other tents or other and you're not familiar yet, you push it and it beeps and you can hear it and go right back to where you were.
Perfect.
And so I've used it lots of different ways.
Another thought is to use the Apple AirTags there.
Yeah, I haven't used those.
You put that on your luggage and then you can GPS or you can get your luggage off your phone and make it go off.
That's right. And I didn't even think about those. Does anybody know, has anybody used a smart bag? I kept hearing at the airport announcement, if you have a smart bag, you have to do certain things or turn things off or something.
That has to do with the battery being in it.
Oh yeah, the lithium.
Yeah, you can't have a lithium ion battery be under the plane.
So I guess there's no point in having a smart bag.
Right. Where do you buy the luggage locators?
I don't remember where I got that one, but if you just Googled that online, I'm sure you would get a bazillion of them.
Amazon.
Yeah, I'm sure Amazon would have. Yeah.
They're
Diane, great for lots of things. Yep.
This is Sam. I've got a low-tech one too. So I have these jingle bells that I got from some people that sold gadgets for guide dogs. And I put them on my backpack, usually my carry-on. So when I sit down at the gate and I'm doing whatever I'm doing, if my backpack or carry-on were to go for a walk, I would know if my hand wasn't directly on it.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. And then I have also used those on my luggage, depending on the kind of jingle bells I have. Right. It helps to find the luggage on the carousel. The other thing I do is I bought the ugliest, gaudiest luggage I could find. And you can usually get it on sale because nobody wants those really bright colors. Yep. But I will never buy another black suitcase. And so if you are using sighted assistants to find it, you just tell them what color you got. And if you're stuck with that classic black, they make so much fun duct tape. So I just add duct tape to my suitcase to make it look characteristically unique.
I saw something else at Samsonite over the when I was shopping at Factory Outlet. You can also get skins. They call them skins for your luggage. So after you close it up, you put this skin over it. So they come in all kind of wild colors too.
Oh, so you don't have to buy the ugly luggage.
The other thing I did is I did tie a ribbon thing on the handle in addition to my luggage finder. Yeah. Feel appeal. Any other thoughts or questions?
I got all kinds of guide dog information if anybody's interested.
Oh, excellent. Oh, yeah. You were going to talk about what, Sam? You asked me about it earlier. What was it?
Well, as of a year ago, the TSA has changed the requirements for traveling with a guide dog. So prior to that, if you traveled with a service dog, you just notified the airlines and everything was good. Well, you may have seen the notice. There was an article in the news about a woman traveling with her service peacock, and then the service pigs and the service snakes. So TSA has put an end to all of that and said, no more emotional support animals, no more service peacocks, no more service pigs and snakes. So now the rules more closely align with the ADA. I can't say definitively if they allow the miniature guide horses or not, but they might, because the ADA does. But otherwise, it's just dogs. And no more emotional support dogs. It's service dogs. And you have to complete a form more than 24 hours in advance of your flight. And the form is pretty simple. But it includes veterinary information, vaccination information. And it's just a hoop to jump through to make sure that they're getting legitimate working dogs on the planes and none of this other nonsense.
Right.
So it's important to tell the airline, one, that you're traveling with a service dog because they need to account for that weight. And the dog's weight is also on the form, and then they'll forward you the form, and you can just forward it back to the airline. You can have a copy on your phone, on the app. It's all good to go. Used to be you could travel domestically with no problem, but now you need that form. Internationally, so because of my the accent, I know, I've been found out already. So I travel to Canada frequently back and forth, and contrary to popular belief, that's international travel. And so in order to cross the border, most jurisdictions require some sort of health certificate. Canada's health certificate is pretty standard, and every vet is pretty familiar with it. You have to get the health certificate completed within 30 days of travel. And I would say 9 times out of 10, the guy that you meet when you cross the border at Customs and Immigration doesn't even know that it exists. So most of the time I don't have to show it. But just in case that one time you do need it, you've got it.
Yeah.
Internationally, I've traveled to Europe with my guide dog. Now the rules are entirely different. And so you really need to check with the Department of Agriculture is where I ended up going because you're traveling with livestock. And it was a much more onerous event to cross internationally with a guide dog, but it can be done. I have a friend who travels internationally for work all over the world, and he's taken his guide dogs everywhere, almost everywhere. I mean, there are a few places he would not take a guide dog, and he's not taking his guide dogs out in the middle of the rainforest. He's generally in metropolitan areas. All countries have their own rules for access with guide dogs. So we are quite privileged here to have our access rules here so black and white, and other places are not quite so black and white. I was in Croatia with my guide dog, and we went into a grocery store. And just because I love looking at grocery stores when I travel, to see how the people eat. What do they eat? What do they buy? I had the guide dog rules in Croatian in my wallet, but the store owner, this was a resort town, it wasn't a metropolitan area, and they just weren't having anything with it. So it wasn't worth the argument. It was fine. Okay, right. I don't need to go to the grocery store. Similarly, I went to go visit yet another European church, and they had a problem with the dog in the church. Well, okay. Again, what's going on. It's their country, not mine. I get
exactly.
Yep. Yeah. And I was in Italy with my dog. I had trouble in a restaurant. It was, read between the lines. It wasn't okay, let's not talk in a double negative. Okay, Sam, get over the lawyer talk. It was a problem that could have happened in North America just as easily in Europe. It wasn't an Italian restaurant. So I just graciously left and went to another one. I was armed again with the legislation, and I pulled it out, and these people didn't speak Italian or English, so they didn't want anything to do with me. No. So fine. But generally speaking, it's been fine. Almost, well, in the United States, every airport I've been to, now I haven't been to any of these little ones lately. Yeah, I have. All the big airports have indoor relieving areas for guide dogs inside security. Outside, if you go outside security, they all have dog relieving areas for pet dogs and guide dogs. But if you're switching planes and you've got time in between, you don't have enough time to leave security and come back, generally speaking. Now, they never consulted with any of my guide dogs when they created these indoor relieving areas, because they all have AstroTurf, and no self-respecting, well-trained professional guide is going to use. I don't know who uses these, because my dogs just look at me like, you've got to be crazy. That's carpet and I'm going to get into trouble. Nope, I don't need to do anything. So I was traveling back from Europe, and I left Venice at like 4:00 in the morning, and we flew, and my dog did his business. No problem. So then we fly to Amsterdam and change flights in Amsterdam, but there was no time in between to do any business. Now, back up, when we flew in Amsterdam, there was time. And in Europe, because smoking is so culturally accepted, when you go inside security, there are outdoor smoking areas. So you can still get outside. So wow. I could get outside in Amsterdam in the security area into the smoking area. But that coming back, I didn't have time to do that. So coming back, we flew from Amsterdam to Seattle, 10 hours. I mean, do the math. We are, we're getting close to, I don't know, 16, 18 hours, and this dog hasn't done any business. And we get to Seattle, and we're in line to check in at Customs and Immigration here, or Homeland Security is what they call it there. And then big lineup, do all of that. And then they say, now you need to go stand in line at the Department of Agriculture because you have the dog. Okay, I'm just about to come unglued here. Well, okay, if something happens, it's not my fault. I can't do anything anymore. Okay, we get through all of that. It's all good. I go to this indoor relieving area, and off comes the harness, and he's looking at me like, no way, you've got to be kidding. And I had to get on a plane to come to Sacramento. So I left. I went to the restroom for me. I got out a big bowl of water and set it down and crossed my arms and said, drink. He was really thirsty, so he couldn't hold back, and he just kept going. I got a coffee, went back 20 minutes later. He used it. All right, fine, gotcha. Yeah. I lost my train of thought.
So would your dog, now I've been in the airports, the big airports where they have the family / all gender bathrooms, and in there they had a sandbox for the dogs.
I have never seen a sandbox, and it was
really cool. It was like in one end of the room, and it had a threshold, kind of like a step over a shower would, and there was sand in there. Do you think that would have been a more suitable? Would your dog have gone for that?
Maybe, but I wouldn't hold my breath on it. The NFB conventions frequently have sandboxes with sawdust in them for the dogs. And I took my first guide, he held out. He was not using that. No way. In fact, he thought you could just tell he was wrinkling up his little nose if to say, that's gross. You've got to be kidding. I'll take concrete, I'll take grass, I'll take anything, but not that. So I don't know. It would be worth a try, but they generally just smell so bad.
Yeah.
Even
I thought it was a good idea, because I personally, and that made me think of something too, everybody. When I'm walking through a large airport with a sky cap, and if I need to use the facilities on the way, I just tell them, please let me know if you see one of the family / all gender bathrooms, because it takes way less time to get in there and use that than it does to go into one of those ballroom size maze bathrooms where there's endless stalls and sinks on the other side and people, and it just is quicker. So I always ask them to look for one of those. And that's how I happened to discover the sandbox. And I thought, well, that'd be good. If I had a guide, at least, we're in here by ourselves, and, I don't have to mess with people. And so,
yeah.
Any advice on the restrooms on the plane?
Don't take your guide dog in there.
Yeah.
For humans. For humans.
I just, depending on if I'm sitting in the front or back, I'll just maybe mention to the attendant, is my closest restroom front or back? And then if I need to go, they don't want you to line up anymore, especially up front. So they want you to watch till there's no line and you go up there. So I just, if I need to put my call button on and they come, and I'll say, would you let me know when there's no line at the restroom? I need to use it. And then they'll come and tell me when I can go up there. Any other thoughts? Okay. Well, hopefully this gave some of you some ideas, especially if you haven't traveled alone since you've lost your eyesight. And there's probably other tips and tricks that I didn't think of to mention today, but
Diane, I just thought, and I don't know if I missed you saying this, but if Jill's still on here, she can pipe up. But there are, I hate to ever use the term services. They're not services. They're organizations that you can connect with, so you can travel alone and meet up and have guides when you get to places like.
Oh, right.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. And that's a good thing too. There are services like that. And I'll tell you something I did, or I was going to do a while back. When I was planning my trip to Mackinac Island, I wanted to go with somebody because it's just more fun to go with a friend. But if I didn't find somebody who wanted to go, I was going to go anyway. And so I called ahead to the visitor center. And when I was there the first time, I had kind of totally accidentally ran into another blind person in the riding stable. And so I knew they were there. But I called the visitor center and I said, I would like to see if you can assist me in finding a person who'd like to be like a tour guide sometimes throughout my week while I'm there. And so I was going to do that very thing. It turned out I didn't have to. I went with a girlfriend, but yeah, that's a great thought. And there are services that, and I don't know how you find those resources, but I've heard of them.
Travelize is one, and Wilderness Inquiry. That's more like camping and kind of rafting. But I think it's Travelize. If anybody wants more, I can look them up. Those are the two that I know of.
Oh, that's cool.
And Jill, what about your experience with the docents in the museums and right?
And well, I've only been to a couple, but not very many. Usually I had just a sighted person with me. I mean, when I went to Hawaii, I did research before, Like when we went kayaking, we, told the people that we were blind, and they arranged to have a guide for us that spent all day, didn't charge us any more money. But I didn't really do a lot of the museums and stuff.
That's a thought too, guys. Speaking of that, your kayak trip reminds me some years ago when I was in Vegas and wanted to do the largest zip line that exists in our country. It's about an hour outside of Vegas. And I knew something about zip lines and knew that sometimes you have to put on your own brakes and things. So I called ahead to this place and I said, I'm going to be coming and I'm going to do your zip line. I'm blind. How does your system work? Well, it turns out in this 4-line system coming down this mountain, you did have to put on your own brakes. So I said, okay, let's work out another way. Well, they were the coolest bunch of people. They were young. And the other kind of fun thing is I think most of the staff were just out of the Marines guys. And so anyway, they got all excited about figuring it out. And they had some of the same ideas I did. You could have a radio, we could tell you when to put your brakes on, but that wouldn't be good. What if we lost connection right at the wrong time? Okay, that one. Anyway, when I got there, what they had decided to do, since there are 4 lines side by side, one of the guys just got on the line next to me and he put a tether between his harness and mine, and he did the braking at the appropriate time. So I didn't even have to worry about it. So, and I took my cane because we had to hike up the mountain and then to the top. And so I had a straight cane because I was hiking. And so I asked him, I said, you want me to hold the cane? He goes, no, I'll hold it. And as it turns out, he left it on the second landing and had to go back and get it. But yeah, so that was a really good experience, and we worked it out.
And if you ask, you're never going to know. I mean, if they say no, they say no. But even when we went kayaking, the guy was so cool, and he's never dealt with blind people before, but he was super easy. He even took us on a little hike. It was it was actually kind of a crazy little hike on these pretty big rocks, but he learned something new about blind people. It was kind of neat.
And that, exactly. And the zip line people too, like, oh, you got to come back, and then they knew how to do it with somebody else that came along. So it was really fun.
Yep.